Hello, am I audible?
Good
Yes, sir.
afternoon.
Yeah. How is the clarity of voice?
Perfect.
Perfect, no? Okay.
Hello,
So,
sir. Good afternoon, sir.
yeah, hi, good
Jayalakshmi, sir.
afternoon.
How are you, sir?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, hope I'm not hijacking your precious Sunday afternoon time.
We are waiting for your session, sir.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll start the session very soon. So, what is stress? What exactly is stress? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
For some it is good, for some it is bad.
So, how it is good and how it is bad?
Sir, a little bit stress is important if you want to lead a healthy life.
Okay,
And it is bad if you take it in mind, it leads to depression.
right. Yes, perfect answer. Can you give an example?
Uh, Sir, everything if you take lightly,
Okay.
uh, right? A little bit stress is important so
Okay.
that you do not take things lightly.
Yeah. So, what are the adverse effects of stress?
Diseases, it leads to diseases.
Right.
Uh, it leads to breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
and it leads to uh, diseases to aa gaya. I mean
Yeah.
nothing.
Right. Yeah. There are adverse effects pertaining to stress. That's perfect. So, what are the techniques you know to manage stress?
Meditation is one of them.
Yeah. One of the best technique known is meditation. Yes. Any other technique?
Decision making also can be used, no, sir.
Pardon?
Decision making.
Yeah. Decision making is also important. If you make correct decisions in life, maybe you will undergo a little bit of stress. That's true. So, have you ever seen a victim of stress, a bad victim of stress?
Yes.
Yeah, like what kind of suffering they had?
Sir, I am a psychiatrist.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. Then you'll be able to add more value to our session now.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
Sir, in
name,
the
please?
hospital, I have seen people, stressed people, they
Okay.
are into depression, personality disorder.
Hmm.
Those things happen to them.
Right.
Forgetfulness.
Yeah.
I am myself a victim of forgetfulness
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay. Means what kind of forgetfulness you have?
When we are stressed out, we keep things and forget.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes I forget
yeah.
names. If I'm addressing you, I forget names sometimes.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
happens
Yeah.
due to
Yeah, that is a common symptom of stress. When you get stressed, you won't be able to focus on certain things, and that
yes,
is how you actually skip many things getting registered in your mind.
yes.
Okay. So, as you said, stress as such is not a bad thing. To an extent, to a reasonable extent, stress is very much required in our life. Without stress, things won't move, as you said. So, what is the exact nature of stress? What exactly is stress? That is what we are going to explore. First and foremost thing is that during this seminar, we are going to talk about what exactly this stress is all about, how it gets created in our life, and what are the implications of this stress, high stress. And then finally, we are going to talk about different techniques wherein we can actually manage the excessive stress. Okay, so this is how it is going to be. Yeah. So what exactly stress means? Stress is a kind of force. If you talk at a physical level, stress is a kind of force. For example, if I'm holding my left hand with my right hand and gripping it, what is happening? I'm exerting some force, and that force is actually creating some kind of pressure on my left hand. So, as long as it is reasonable, the hand will be able to tolerate. But if it becomes very excessive, then what happens? Then what happens? there can be damage to this hand. So that is what is known as excessive pressure. So stress is nothing but a kind of pressure. So this is at the physical level. Physically, we know that this is a kind of pressure which is exerting some kind of force, and with that force, things are actually moving. For example, if a car is stranded, it is not moving, then you exert pressure. So you're giving some kind of stress to the vehicle which is stationary, and that is how it is going to move. So we can say that stress is a kind of kinetic energy. What is stress? Stress is a kind of kinetic energy. This is at a physical level. But if you look at the psychological level, this stress is an invisible force. And where is the pressure exerted? The pressure is exerted in the inner being, not at the outer being, but at the inner being. There is lot of stress. Okay, so to an extent, stress is important because it is something which is actually propelling us to take some kind of action. For example, you're working in an office and you are really bored with your work, you don't want to do work, and you are simply laid back. Means you are just relaxing and the piles are getting actually accumulated. Means the workload is getting increased, but you're not actually taking any action. In such a situation, if your boss is going to pull you up and if it's going to uh, shout at you, then that becomes a stress factor. Means you start fearing reprimands from your boss, and that's the reason why you start working. Means this kind of pressure to an extent is okay. But there are some people who continuously use pressure irrespective of what the circumstances. Even if there is no need to give stress, people will start giving some kind of stress to other people. And that is how, yeah, people undergo pressure without any reason. So now we'll go into the presentation. We'll see what exactly this stress is all about. Yeah. So many people think that stress is a modern day phenomenon. And many people think that human beings got started getting stress only due to modern way of living, and they consider that the earlier people, like our ancestors, they had a relatively stress-free lifestyle. But there is no truth in it. As such, the stress has actually started since the inception of man. And stress of various kinds, like it could not be not just the psychological part, but even the physical part can be considered as its kind of stress. So initially, man did not have any kind of security of life. Means he was actually having no security of food. There was no food security, there is no physical security. Means anytime he could be attacked by wild animals, he could be killed. Like that, he was also under tremendous stress. He too had lot of stress from animal attacks, stress from insecurity of life, stress because of ill health. Like that, there were several kind of stress even the ancestors had. So many people think that stress is a modern day phenomena, but that's not the case. But the causes of stress have actually transformed. Earlier, there used to be more of physical stress. People used to have lot of physical stress. But today, that physical stress has actually transformed into psychological stress. Today, most of us, we undergo some kind of psychological stress, not the physical stress, because we are living in a very safe and secure environment. We are living in a society where we have so many preventive measures and we have so many precautions or safety measures. So life is not so insecure as of now, but we have a different kind of stress. This stress is mostly the psychological stress. So whenever we are interacting with some people, we undergo stress. The way they talk to us, the way they behave with us, it also causes stress. Means a relationship between a daughter-in-law and mother-in-law can also be stressful. Though there is no physical stress, only the psychological stress. Similarly, there could be stress between an employee and the boss. Employees might be undergoing a lot of stress in their workplace. There could be stress between wife and husband. Even children who are actually going to school, who doesn't have many responsibilities, even they have lot of stress. Stress of examination, stress of attending school. Like that, there are many things that have come up in our life. As a result of this, we are undergoing some kind of misery in life. Life as such is supposed to be very peaceful, joyful, and blissful. But unfortunately, our life is not like that now. We are undergoing some kind of stress or the other in different phases of life. As a school going child, we had some kind of stress, some type of stress. When we go to college, there we have a different kind of stress. And after passing out, we have the stress of getting employed. And even after getting employed, we undergo the stress of actually meeting the expectations of the company. Like that, to get married is a stressful thing. Getting the suitable person for getting married. Like that, if you look at people's life, various aspects of life are actually filled with different of stress. Even this stress is causing some kind of pressure on the human being, especially on the mind. Okay. So what exactly is this stress means? It is a force which is actually exerting some kind of pressure on human beings. So usually, what is this stress? How did stress come up at all? Stress is actually a response system. Whenever there is a danger, either you can fight the danger or you can run away from danger. Means this is the instinct not developed only in human beings, but much before the evolution of human beings. The brain, when it was in reptilian state, when the evolution has started and when the reptiles have actually emerged on Earth, means reptiles were our ancestors. Okay, much before human beings came, reptiles they came into existence. After that, mammals came into existence. After that, our human beings they started coming. So the brain had undergone some kind of conditioning. What is that conditioning? Whenever you encounter a situation which is dangerous, you either fight in order to survive or you run away in order to survive. So this is what is known as fight or flight response system. It exists in all animals, not only in human beings, but also in all human beings, or in all the animal species. So if you think that if you think that the danger is bigger than you, what do you do? When you think that the danger is much bigger than you feel overwhelmed, means you feel powerless, you think that you can't fight it, and that's how you start running away from it. But if on the other hand, if you think that the danger, it could be in the form of a bigger animal or it could be in the form of a bigger trouble. So if you think that it is much smaller than you, what will you do? Immediately, you'll start fighting against it. For example, you are walking in a forest. While you are walking in a forest, you came across a dog which is not very ferocious, but it is trying to harm you. Then what do? Immediately, you will pick up some stick or a stone and then you'll start threatening it. So looking at you, the dog gets frightened and it will run away. So there what you are doing, there you are actually fighting. This is a fight response. After some time, you're walking, thinking that okay, you are the powerful person, you're able to show with the dog, and you're actually walking with a sense of pride, thinking that yes, I'm powerful. Next moment, a tiger appears. Then what do? Will you attack it with a stone or a stick? In such case, you'll start running away and maybe you'll start climbing a tree. Why? It is a flight response system. Means you don't want to face the danger. It can easily kill you. That is the reason why you want to run away. This is what is known as flight or fight response system, which is embedded deep in all the animal species. We are also part of the animal kingdom, but we are actually representing the highest evolution of animal kingdom. So we are not an exception. Our part of brain, a little part of brain, is hardwired for this situation, fight or flight. Why flight or fight? What is it? So it is one of the fundamental instinct, a life survival instinct. Every species on this earth, it wants to live. It doesn't want to die. Voluntarily, nobody wants to die. Maybe people who commit suicide, they had some strong reason to commit suicide, but otherwise, when they don't want to commit suicide, everybody wants to live because it is the basic instinct of beings, animals, to survive. Self-survival is the highest priority of every living being. So, behind this self-survival mechanism, behind this self-survival mechanism, we have a system which is hardwired to get alerts. What is that system? Before fighting or flighting, you need to have a different alarming system. What is that alarming system? That alarming system is nothing but the stress. Stress. When you get stressed up, it means that you're getting alerted. You're being alert. So the pressure is building up, saying that okay, there is going to be danger. You need to respond. So when a person gets stressful, not only man but also animals, whenever it undergoes a kind of stress, what happens? There will be some physiological changes. There will be change at the pace at which your heart is beating, the pace at which you're breathing, the pace at which your heart is pumping blood. So, in order to fight, you cannot fight when you are at a very normal level. Means if you don't have enough blood pumping into your nerves, you will not have that momentum to fight. Means in order to fight or even to fly, the body should actually undergo some kind of change, temporary changes. These temporary changes are what is known as stress. Means it is actually giving some kind of pressure. Means based on the information that you have perceived, your body is getting geared up. Either you have to fight it or you have to run away from it. But both these things, your physiological changes are essential. So that is what is stress response system. So when people talk about stress, they only talk from the negative perspective, but the positive perspective is that it should actually, it is the stress system as such is existing. The stress system is existing only as a self-survival mechanism. Only as a self-survival mechanism. So in the primitive times, it is only the physical threat. We have to fight with animals, or we have to fight with other individuals who are competing for the food, the scarce food. So in such case, you have to actually confront the other person. So for that, slowly the stress system has started evolving. Today, we are living in a very secure environment. Today, hardly we see an animal which can come and kill us. If you go in front of a tiger or a lion, it will kill you. But how many lions are we seeing today in our hometown, except for the zoos or for the safaris or for the national parks? We don't find. These animals are confined to certain regions wherein, in normal course of time, we don't get encountered. Similarly, snakes also. We hardly see a snake. So that way, our life has actually improved in terms of physical safety and security. We are not living under trees. We are actually living under secure houses. So even if it rains or even if it is having bad weather, we are still safe and secure. So that way, the physical stress has actually come down. But in place of physical stress, we are getting psychological stress. There is no physical harm. If you see your enemy, he is not going to attack you with a weapon. He is not going to come and hit you also. There is no physical harm. But the moment he comes, you will start having some kind of uneasiness because he exerts some kind of psychological pressure. Instead of using weapons, physical weapons, uses the weapon of tongue. With some sharp words, you can hurt you. When he's using some bad words or sharp words, what is happening? Is it affecting your physical body? It is not affecting your physical body. It is affecting only your ego. What is ego? Ego is nothing but a sense of self-identity. Ego is what? Ego is an invisible self-identity. Everybody is conscious, yes, I am. This feeling of I am is what is known as ego. This sense of identity is what is known as ego. So even if you don't have any physical threat these days, of course it doesn't mean that we are absolutely free from physical threats. There are exceptions, but more or less the inflict the damage is inflicted not to the physical body but to the inner being, that is the ego. So even if somebody comes and shouts at you, physically you don't have any feeling, but mentally you struggle and suffer. For many days you'll start feeling so negative. You want to give him back. Sometimes when your boss comes and he shouts at you in public, what will happen? You'll be bubbling with anger because he has hurt your ego. There is a wound in the ego. So you want to actually protect your ego. You want to promote your ego. After all, throughout our life, there is one task that we are all doing. What is that? We are all trying to protect and promote our own ego. So, ego is nothing but an extension of our physical identity. So, we want to protect our ego, and that's the reason we get offended when people say something about us. So, stress is now actually working at the mental level or the psychological level. So, the paradox is the paradox. What is the paradox? Paradox is a contradictory situation, a contradiction in itself. Why stress response system exists? The stress response system exists only for the sake of self survival, means for protecting the self. Stress system is an alarming alerting mechanism for the protection of the self. But unfortunately, these days, this stress, which is supposed to protect the being, instead of protecting it, it is actually causing damage to it. So by giving excess pressure, instead of doing good thing, it is doing bad to the human beings. So that is what we will say that stress is a paradoxical situation. Instead of promoting, protecting, it is actually killing. So how many people are getting killed every year because of stress-related problems? So today we have stress in the form of various social things, not just the physical stress. So stress can exist in the form of an authority. It could be your boss, it could be your super boss, it could be your owner, it could be your father, it could be your someone who is in authority who has some kind of control over you. Stress can be caused because of breakup of love, breakup of heart. It could be caused because of your financial situation. Whenever there is less of money for you to use, you undergo a lot of financial pressure. You undergo a lot of problems in the relationship. Like if you're not in good terms with your spouse, what happens? It is a hell. Many people they are getting divorced because they are not able to adjust with each other. there is mutual stress. Means people are actually inflicting pressure on each other, and the pressure is so high that couples are actually getting divorced. This has become a relatively, yeah, popular concept now. Earlier, it used to be in Western societies, but even in today, India, there is lot of breakdown of marriages. Similarly, there could be stressful situation in your business. You're running a business, but the business is not doing well. It creates stress. You have some health problem, then it is giving some kind of stress. Okay, so overall, we can say that stress can emerge from different causes. One, health. There is a health problem, you tend to become stressful because there is insecurity, there is a physical pain, there is a physical suffering, and there is an insecurity that you might die. There is some kind of mental stress. Similarly, the health of your loved ones, your family members, your children, your spouse, your parents, your relatives, siblings, the health of your close family members could be a very stressful thing. If they fall sick, you tend to become very stressful, right? Similarly, health next is finances. When you don't have money, if you're actually going into debts, if you're losing money in your business, you're not making money, you lost your job, you're not able to get job. So all these things are again going to be very stressful. These are the stresses that we are undergoing. And then interpersonal relationship. You're having a fight with your business partner, so that is also a very stressful thing in life. Similarly, your colleagues are not cooperating with you, again there is a stress. Your children are not cooperating with you, again there is a stress. Like that, if you look at any relationship, again there is lot of possibility of stress. So because of all this stress, human life is not very peaceful. On top of that, the environment in which we are living is also very stressful. The moment you switch on your TV or you tune into your social media, what happens? You come across so much of negativity that makes you feel stressful. So, as such, we are living in a very stressful environment. So, what is the consequence? The consequences are bitter. So, how does stress affect us? So, stress, it comes from different sources. One source of stress is internal, purely internal. There is nobody coming and fiddling or meddling with you, but you might be undergoing so much of stress. This could be because of your own health reasons. Maybe your health is not good, you will be undergoing some suffering. There is a stress which is piling up in you. So even if everything is fine, your own thought process, you might be thinking, and your thoughts could be negative thoughts. You might be having so many negative thoughts, and these negative thoughts are going to create so much of stress because there is a lot of correlation between thoughts and emotions. Whenever there is a thought, there is an associated emotion. Positive thoughts will lead to positive results, positive emotions, and a negative thought will lead to negative emotion. So whenever you are indulging in a very negative thought, what is happening is you tend to get into negative emotions, and as a result of your negative emotions, you will be undergoing some kind of stress. So this is about internal sources of own stress. There are external sources. External sources could be anything outside. It could be people who are in your life. It could be circumstances that are growing up in your life. So those things are external sources of stress. If somebody comes and actually misbehaves with you, you're going to get stressed up. Your husband comes and slaps you. What happens? He is creating some kind of stress on you. If somebody comes and starts harassing you for no reason, again, it is a stressful thing. Again, the source is an external thing. Means anything outside you is an external source of stress. And as such, we are living in an environment or in a society, and these sources of stress even can emerge from this external environment. The best example is the coronavirus. Coronavirus, because of this corona pandemic, there is a lot of stress which has actually built up in our society. So many people, even if they're not having any idea, they're actually victims of the coronavirus stress. There is lot of negativity. Initially, there was lot of negativity about negative news about corona. There was a panic, and the waves of panic have started floating around us. So even if you are actually sitting in isolation without listening to the TV news or reading newspaper, you started feeling some kind of insecurity. It is because you are able to perceive some negative vibes in the environment. So that is how stress can actually come even from the external sources, means the environmental sources. And even it can come from other sources, like for example, the policies that the government takes. It can also be very stressful, right? So when the government announces some policy saying that no more free electricity, there is a stress which actually builds up among certain communities. When the government announces reservation for some community, there is a stress in a opposing community. Like that, we are subjected to various levels of stress. One is purely internal stress, the other one is external stress, and the other one is environmental stress. Okay. So we have talked about the adverse effects of stress. So if you look at the physical effect of stress on body, you can see from this picture that stress has impact on various organs. So you can say that if you become stressful, your blood pressure will start varying because whenever you get into a stressful situation, what is happening? Your blood is racing. So if you're actually getting subjected to this kind of stress again and again, it becomes a permanent conditioning thing. It becomes a permanent thing. So you'll tend to develop hypertension, maybe even hypotension, like low blood pressure also can happen because of if you are undergoing fear repeatedly, your blood pressure might actually come down. Because when you are actually under a lot of fear, your blood pressure will fall. So if you are continuously fearing, what happens? It will start going down. Blood pressure is affected. You'll be a victim of low blood pressure. Instead of feeling fear, if you're actually getting enraged, if you're actually becoming angry, enraged, what is happening? Blood is racing faster. Because of that, you tend to become what? You tend to become a high blood pressure person. You develop high BP. So there is no other reason why a person should develop an altered blood pressure. It should be normal. The role of food is very minimal here. Many people think that it is because of food, but as a matter of fact, it is mostly because of your emotions. Whenever you are undergoing some kind of negative emotion, some part of your body is affected. So if you are actually getting so depressed, if you are actually living in depression continuously, you know what is happening? You tend to be diabetic. Because whenever you are in a low mode, your body, in order to supply more glucose to your brain, to keep it activated, it actually shoots up the sugar levels. More and more sugar is actually supplied to the brain, and the pituitary gland has to work at a different pace. And after some time, it becomes so conditioned that it will stop working. So diabetes is because of your stress, your hypertension is because of the stress, and the heart problems, the strokes, are mainly because of these stressful situations. So I've just given few examples, but as such, there are so many adverse effects of stress on physical body. So in order to live a very healthy life, it's not that you should run after hospitals and doctors. If you can really manage your emotions properly, if you can actually eliminate stress from your life, you don't have to go to any doctor. If you are living a very peaceful and calm lifestyle, you don't have to meet any doctor. People who have lived above 100 years, there are so many people who are living beyond 100 years. One example is my own grandfather. He is now alive. He is 108 years old. So all his generation people passed away, and even after his generation people, like including my own father and mother, they passed away. But he's still doing very well. If you analyze his own lifestyle, you'll understand that he's a very, very calm going person. He doesn't take any stress to heart. He just reacts for a while and then that's it. He doesn't allow stress to actually act upon him. That was his personality. And there were documented evidences on people who have lived beyond 110 years who are still alive. The only thing that is common among all these people is they live a stress-free life. So in order to live a very healthy and a long life, the most important thing is that we should never allow stress to actually come to us. So that is about the physical aspect of stress. So every day we come across so many instances of suicide. Why people go to suicide? Why people commit suicide? As such, suicide is not a pleasant thing. People say people who commit suicide are timid. There is no truth in it. They are not timid. They have a lot of guts. Because in order to commit suicide, you need to have a lot of guts. But they are driven to such a point that they commit suicide because the pressure on them is so huge. The psychological pressure is so huge. So suicide happens to be one of the major factors of death across the world, especially among the teenage group people. Many people they commit suicide not because of any reason, but from stressful life. So suicide is one thing behind major causes of death, and the primary reason for suicide is a stressful life. They are not able to cope up with the demands of society, and that's the reason why they commit suicide. So next is addiction. When people are subjected to too many stress, what happens? They tend to seek some kind of alternative pleasure in terms of getting some addictions. People become alcoholics. People become drug abusers because they find kinds they they find some kind of relief from the stress of the daily life. Recently, uh, about Shyam Singh, there is an allegation that he committed suicide, and some people they think that it is a murder. And today, it's an established fact that it is because of drug abuse. Since the drug mafia is actually involved in this crime instead. And one police officer, he publicly went on TV saying that most of the film actors, they are used to taking these drugs because of only one reason. So he is the head of a narcotic division, and he met so many actors during the process of interrogation or interviewing them. Then the only thing that they told is, in order to escape the pressure, in order to escape stress, they take these substances. So this is how even the teenagers in many metropolitan cities today, they're getting used to these drugs. Why? Because they want to seek solace from stress by going into this kind of harmful substance abuse. So the younger generations they are actually getting affected by stress. So this is another point we need to know. And then, as I told you, stress is also prompting people to commit some kind of crimes. In order to get relief from stress, many people indulge in some kind of criminal activity. I told you, Sushant Singh's example, there is a crime racket behind this, and their origin goes to stress. So stress is something which is actually literally ripping life of people apart. It is creating so much of havoc in human life. So how do we cope up with this stress? Stress, as such, is a natural mechanism, a mechanism which was actually built by nature in order to protect the individual from harm. But the dysfunctional aspect is this very stress is actually harming the human communities. So this is the contradiction, and we need a collective effort to fight this stress. Maybe at individual level, we might not be very effective in terms of countering the stress, but as collective effort, we can actually bring down the level of stress in our life and also in the life of other people. So, as such, while I'm talking, I'm pressing my ear because since few years I'm having some health problem. Means when talking, it is echoing in my ear, so I'm feeling little discomfort. Please don't mind. So, not only it affects our health, not only it prompts us to go for drug abuse, not only it prompts us towards suicide, but it also kills the productivity of individual. When a person is very stressful, his performance is drastically affected. This can be seen everywhere. Whenever a person is very stressful, his performance will drastically fall down. Productivity is killed. When a productivity is killed, what happens? The output is very low, and that is how the businesses can also fail. The economy can also crumble because of stress factor. And individual level, the income flow might decrease. So it is affecting even our financial aspect of life. So obviously, when the finances fall, again, it's a trap, a kind of situation. Because of stress, your financial life will crumble. When you crumble financially, again, more and more stress is actually created in your life. So it is like getting into quicksand. It will only pull you down, pull you down. So that is how we need to encounter stress at the earliest. So it also affects our interpersonal relationships. When a husband is very much stressed up in office, when he comes back, if the wife is not actually accommodating, she will start reacting sharply to the gestures of the husband or the reverse. So, if a person is stressed up, that stress is actually transferred to the other person also. So that is how the stress builds up and breaks up even the interpersonal relationship. It is not only within the family but also in the work environment, the business life, in various aspects of our social life also. We tend to make our relationships better. Okay. So stress can be found at both physical level and even as well as psychological level. For example, if you're actually having a lot of stress, it could manifest as pain in different parts of your body. Even if it is a psychological